Sure, YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing great. Today I just want to have a chit chat with you guys about record labels. So I'll be answering the question, is it worth it to sign with a record label? That's the discussion for today. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, like, leave a comment, also don't forget to share the video so that other producers can see the content. Let's get into it. The question is it worth it to sign with a record label? So to begin with answering the question, I'll just give you like a brief understanding of a record label according to my understanding. So a record label, according to my understanding, is a company that manages artists. It manages the music distribution, royalties, gigs, social media presence, or simply online presence, marketing, and all other expenses that will be related with music for that artist. So the record label handles all of that. It distributes your music to online stores, and then it exposes you to its market. So that's a record label. Is it worth it signing with one? So back then you really needed a record label to release your music to Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, and all of these other digital stores. You really needed a record label. You couldn't release to those stores directly by yourself. But then now in 2020, you can do it by yourself independently through online aggregators or other independent record labels that will not bind you or anything. But then still, do you need a record label in 2020, irregardless of you being able to release music by yourself? There's no definite answer to that. So I would say it depends. Whether you have a record label or whether you're independent, we all want to make it in the industry as a musician, or let me say as a brand, right? So to make it, your brand has to be well known, and it has to be exposed to the right audience, and it has to gain following, and it has to have that brand awareness. People need to know your brand. That's what we all want. But then, can you make people know about your brand by yourself? Do you have the tools to do that by yourself? Or you need some lift or some push by some external force or whatever? So that external force can be a record label. So if you are failing to make people know about your brand by yourself, that's where a record label can come in handy. There are record labels that have a large market. So those are actually record labels that can expose your music or your brand to the right audience. And after the deal or the contract period, you now have a following of yourself that will go directly to your brand, being independent from the record label. So I would say, if you are failing to market your brand and get following through social platforms or other online platforms, then it is very necessary for you to get a record label in order to give you that lift or push. So this is how I picture it, and I think it would be helpful if you picture it this way, right? It's a kind of a weird example, I might say. So you have this idea to start selling fried chips. The first day you sell, you won't get a lot of buyers. No matter how good you are, you won't, simply because people don't know about your fries. If people don't know, no matter how good it is, people won't buy. I keep saying that. So basically what you need is you need a market, but you don't have a market by yourself. So let's say next day you find out about a gig that is happening down the street. So a good idea would be to take your stall and go sell there by the gig. That way a lot of people will come buy your fries, So if they're good, obviously there are a lot of people who will enjoy your fries, and then there'll be few who won't really enjoy your fries, simply just because of preference. No matter how good they are, some people just won't enjoy them. because of preference. So what happens after the gig? After the gig, you will have a lot of people now coming to buy to you directly, not through a gig or whatever, because they now know about your fries and they enjoy them, of course. So what happened is the gig that happened down the street actually gave you that boost in order to expose your fries or your brand to the right audience. Now you can be independent and sell fries by yourself and have a lot of customers coming to buy directly to you. So that's basically what a record label does. It exposes yourself, your craft, your work, you as a musician or as a brand to the right market, so that maybe in a few months to come, when you're now independent, people can still come to you because they now know about you, since the record label exposed you to them. So I would say, if you're failing to push yourself as a brand, to market yourself, to let people know about your brand and everything, you can consider signing with a record label so that they help you be exposed to the right people. So now it's a thing of, you just have to look at different record labels, which one has a larger audience, and also be careful to look at which one attracts the right audience to listen to your music. I mean, if you are a house producer, you obviously want to go sign with a record label that deals with R&B music, because they have a large market, fine, but then their market is there for the primary reasons of listening to R&B music. So you won't get a lot of audience from that. So you'd have to consider signing with house music record labels. So that's it. After considering that, you have to now make sure to read the contracts very, very carefully and fully understand them. If you don't understand, you can always ask the person who sent you, or the manager of the record label, if you don't understand any clause, because it's a thing, you know. You find people who are low-key signing with record labels, and then 3 years to come, they make a banger song, which, you know, it's, you know, just making waves all over the country, and then they are now popping on headlines, reading that this artist was ripped off by these certain record labels, of which might not really be the case. Maybe just because you didn't carefully read the contract when you were still young and naive 3 years back then, and thought it was cool to just sign with a record label just to be cool. You know, there are people who actually want to sign with record labels to seem cool, that I signed with such and such record label, but it's not really about that. It's about knowing the purpose of signing with the record label. Get your music heard, and also make sure that you fully understand the terms and conditions of the contract. So there are different, you know, record labels. There are ones that will fully bind you, and then there are ones which will not. You get independent record labels. These are ones that you can still do things on your side, release elsewhere, you know, still have a bit of independence, but then you can still submit songs to them. So those are independent record labels. And then you find exclusive record labels. These are the ones that fully bind you. You can't do anything. You don't have any independence. You can only release through them. You can only produce at a studio or whatever. These are fully binding record labels, and it's not advisable to sign with them if you're still new to the industry. So yeah, just make sure to read and carefully understand the contracts, to avoid being on the headlines of saying you were ripped off a record label simply because you didn't read and fully understand the terms and conditions. Yeah, I think that's it for today's video. I think I discussed all that I wanted to. If you still have any questions about record labels, or you have other views about that, please leave a comment down below. I'd also like to read and understand and, you know, read your views when it comes to this matter. So my final answer to that is, it depends. If you are failing to, push yourself as a brand, get a lift or a push from a record label, and then find a nice deal. There are some that you can even negotiate with for a certain contract period, and after that, if you're fine, you don't have to renew your contract. You can now be independent and do your own thing. So it's all about making it into the industry, and I hope that this will help you in order to make a good decision and a good approach to this. That's it. I'll catch you on my next video.